This is Suzanne Wagner of the C.G. Jung Institute of Los Angeles. In the next hour, you will view a conversation I held with Aniela Jaffé, a highly respected author and Jungian analyst of Zurich, Switzerland. Aniela Jaffé is probably known most widely for her role as collaborator with C.G. Jung in the writing and editing of Memories, Dreams, Reflections, the autobiography of Jung published in 1961. For many years, she served as Jung's personal secretary. After Jung's death, she worked with Dr. Gerhard Adler on the compilation and editing of the two-volume C.G. Jung Letters, published in 1973. In 1979, another book on Jung's life was edited and published by Aniela Jaffé, C.G. Jung, Word and Image. This handsome book offers a more personal view of Jung than any other publication. It includes many photographs from Jung's early life and from his family life. A detailed timeline of the major events in Jung's life is provided. Aniela Jaffé has practiced as an analyst in Zurich for many years. She is part of a group of gifted individuals who became serious students of Jung early on and who offered him support and creative dialogue as he developed his later work. In addition to several important articles, Jaffé has authored several books of her own, which are classics in the Jungian literature. The Myth of Meaning, published in 1970, From the Life and Work of C.G. Jung, published in 1984, and Was C.G. Jung a Mystic, published in 1989. It was a real pleasure for me to meet with her in her office in Zurich, where this conversation was filmed in March of 1977. Mrs. Jaffé, can you tell me how you met Jung, how you first met him?
Yes. I met him first in his lectures in the Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule. At that time I had my analysis with Frau Dr. Frey. And in 1937 or 38, I had my first lesson with Dr. Jung. I went to him as an analysant. And from this time on, he took me as his analysant.
Had you, when you were then seeing Dr. Frey, you had heard of Jung?
Yes, I read Jung and I followed his lectures. And later I attended his seminars on children's dreams, and I knew him officially. But then I went to him, he accepted me as his analysant. That was about 37 or 38.
Mm-hmm. What, was it difficult to see him at that time? Was it?
I was very glad to see him.
Yes.
It was very helpful.
And then did you work with him?
Then I worked with him. I saw him from time to time. Later I saw him very regularly. During war, when people from abroad didn't come to Zurich, he had more time, so he could see me and other pupils once a week, and this was fine. And later, after the war, we could see him every week, but then there was a certain collaboration had started. And later, no, that was much later. Then become secretary to the Jung Institute, and then I become in 1955. I became his secretary.
How did he feel about writing that autobiographical book, Memories? Was it his own idea, or did other people?
It was Kurt Wolf from Kurt Wolf Verlag who made this suggestion, and Jung suggested that I should do it. And he didn't like it very much, but he agreed. And then we collaborated very intensely. And he went over it and helped me, and I helped him. So it was a very important time.
I had heard a story, stories circulate a lot about Jung, and one I have heard is that there were certain parts of his autobiography that were not allowed to be published by the family.
No, not true.
I see.
It's not true.
Uh-huh. And
the family had no influence whatsoever on publishing. This was my affair. Jung's and my affair.
I see. Yeah, the story was that there were things about reincarnation that were not included.
No.
I see.
No.
Wow. I'm glad that we could talk about it then.
No.
Did he?
Everything was what I thought could be published. What I cut was parts on the chapter which he had written on Africa. It was simply too long. It would have taken the whole book. But I discussed it with him. We compared his manuscript and what I had cut out, and he was very glad.
He loved Africa.
Yeah, he loved Africa.
Can you say something about the way he worked in analysis, how he related to the transference phenomenon?
No, you see, he treated any analysis in a different way, quite different. And I cannot tell you about my analysis. It would be possible, but I cannot tell you. We spoke about my problems and my dreams, of course. I made a lot of drawings. I made active imagination. Often he told me about himself. That also belonged to our talks. He showed me alchemical books. And he took me seriously. Sagen Sie so? Hat mich ernst genommen. He took me as a grown-up. I was a grown-up people, but he took me as a partner.
His view of the transference in analysis is very different from Freud's, and he had personal relationships very often with some of his analysans. Do you also do that?
I don't know really what you mean. A transference is a projection.
Yes.
So I projected on him this and that, and he took it seriously, and he acted accordingly. But he never laughed at it. He accepted it. He accepted it, and it was, of course, the relationship between analyst and analysand is an unpersonal one, but it is at the same time also personal, because every analysand is an own individuality, and so it has this personal aspect. I was a refugee coming from Germany, so I was quite different from any analysand living in Switzerland, for instance. And he taught me also to start a work. I made dream interpretations in his seminars, and later I started my first writing on a fairy tale, which he published later in one of his books. So that this belongs to me. With other, it was quite different.
What about the image that's behind the transference, the idea that there's a religious instinct involved? How did...
I don't understand your question.
Well, the idea that there's a search for meaning involved in the transference itself.
Yeah. Yes, but you see, if you have a relationship to Jung, then you have to work on it, and the meaning is a result, perhaps, you see. One can say I projected on him a father, but I also projected on him a mother, you see. And the one who accepted me, I could say. And from this, in the course of the years, I found a place in this world, in found a place in myself and in the world.
Mm-hmm. You found your own particular work.
Yeah, my work, my meaning, yes, my place, where I belong to.
How did he relate to the problem of dependency, of people becoming too dependent? Uh-huh.
He accepted it.
He accepted it.
He accepted it. It was quite normal for him to be dependent. But we had also to look that we didn't, that we didn't trouble him with our dependency. He had to live his own life, we have to live our own life. So it was a compromise.
Mm-hmm. But he accepted your need.
Yeah, of course. Of course, he knew quite well.
In your own work with other people analytically, do you find that it's helpful to have personal contact with them?
Yeah. What do you mean a personal contact? It's always personal.
A relationship outside of analysis.
I avoided as much as possible to have a relationship outside, because you see, in the room of the analytical talk is quite different from the talk outside of analysis. It's something different. And I know too much of these people. So meeting them in the outer world, perhaps with other people, is difficult. Some of them I even don't greet in the street.
I see.
We meet each other, but I do as if I wouldn't know them. And they are very grateful. But here, they open themselves. And I don't say that I know everything of them, but what they can tell, they tell. Then it doesn't belong to the... There must be a shelter, a protection. These secrets or mysteries of the soul must have a protection, a shelter. And this is his room. There's something of a... maybe one can even say it. This has something of a sacred place, if you want.
Yes.
Because it's very vulnerable.
Well, now, what about Jung in that regard? You didn't see him often outside?
Yes, we still saw him in Bollingen, and we saw him in the club, and later, of course, I collaborated with him later in his memories. But I'm not Jung. I have to do my own analysis in my own way, and he did it in his way.
In this book, Memories, he writes quite a bit in the last chapters about the subject of death and the importance of formulating stories or ideas or views about death, the psychological importance of that. Do you find that the psyche asks you now, as you grow older, to think about, asks you to think about death more as you grow older?
When I'm older.
Or have you always?
You see, I think there are certain periods, for instance, in puberty, young people are very much concerned with the question of death. According to my experience. And even this little girl you saw, she was very much concerned with death when her grandmother died, of course. But you see, death comes nearer and nearer. So, but it becomes also more and more natural. So one gets accustomed to the idea that there are no longer many, many years ahead. Sometimes one is glad, sometimes one worries, so it depends. One doesn't want to live 120 years. I would. I wouldn't like.
Did Jung ever talk to you about dreams before he died that told him about his death approaching? Or
Not especially. Yes, there was one dream which is also published, but I couldn't tell you now. I have it not enough in my memory. You find it not in the memories, I think. Where did I publish? I published it I think in my little article on Jung. I published it.
He mentions in the autobiography a dream of Emma Jung after she died, in which it had a different quality, as if it was a portrait of herself from the other side. This is a very different kind of dream, a kind of metaphysical image. Have you yourself experienced any of those kinds of dreams, or
No,
are you?
I have not. I have not.
I wondered what prompted your own work on parapsychology, your own interest.
What prompted me? I was always very much interested in these questions. And I think it is anybody who is interested in psychology, even Freud was very much interested in it. And he said, I say now my words were not Freud's words, if he had to begin again all his study, he would have concentrated on parapsychology. Freud, this rationalist. So I always was interested. And, oh yes, once there was a, I don't know how to say it, we have a magazine, a periodical, which you cannot buy in the streets, it's sent to people. And they put a question to their readers if they had ever experienced something about ghosts and parapsychology. And they got about 1,200 answers. They sent these answers to Jung, and Jung gave it to me in order to, and I wrote a book about it.
Oh.
Wie heißt es denn? Geisterscheinung. I forgot, it's even translated into English.
Yes. But so Jung encouraged you to write this book.
Yes, he said, I'm too old, I cannot do it. Do you want to do it? And said, yes, with great pleasure.
I see, so, but it's not necessarily from any personal experiences of
my personal
parapsychology.
No. No, I have not the second side, but I have truth-telling dreams, I should say. That happens very often.
That predict the future.
Predictory dreams, very often. But that's so normal. People who pay attention to their dreams, they will find it very often. People who are not interested in dreams or in what happens around them, they don't realize how much how often it happens. That's quite normal.
At this point in your life, do you still sometimes consult with someone, an analyst, with your dreams, or do you pretty much work alone?
No, perhaps from time to time, if I have a dream which seems interesting, I speak with my friends about it, with Frau Frey or Meyer, so to have a reaction. And we do this mutually. She tells me her story.
How do you feel about the way things have gone with Jung's analytical psychology?
The what?
The way things have gone with Jung's psychology in the world, the way the training is being conducted and so on. Do you feel...
I think the interest is growing. Of course, new things come to depth psychology, and that is quite natural and necessary. And Jung often said himself, he did not speak the last word, because science is going on. And now there's more of group psychology, and why not? I agree with this.
You don't have any quarrels with doing analysis in a group? Group psychotherapy or group?
I don't do group psychotherapy. But even I sent some of my analysis, I have already sent them to a group psychology, and we collaborate. It goes, goes together very well. But I know that's my way. Other people wouldn't do. For instance, I know colleagues of mine who would hate this idea. But I don't. Especially when group therapy is complemented, if personal analysis is added to the group psychology. You see, if it is not done as the only way, if besides group therapy a personal analysis is followed.
Do you think that sometimes the experience of the unconscious has an isolating effect on people, that it makes them very alone?
I should say, on the contrary, if one is, I should say, the contact with the unconscious is the condition of having a good relationship to other people. Because, for instance, if a people doesn't know his or her shadow, then the relationship to another people is very difficult and easily to be disturbed. But if I know this is my shadow, then I am more tolerant towards other people, and I can also more easily discern between what is my shadow and what was his fault or her fault. It is, and the people who is in relation with also with the self attracts other people. It's a condition to relationship, I should say. But of course but in every life there are perhaps phases, weeks or days, where one has where one needs to be alone in order to introvert. But it's quite natural. And the more sincere you do this introversion, the more you are able to relate then to other people afterwards. And you are no longer so dependent on other people. You are an entity. The other people, the partner is an entity, and then is a relationship in between. But there is not this fusion, this
symbiosis.
Yeah, symbiosis. It's always very dangerous, because the unconscious doesn't want this symbiosis. It disturbs it by rough or lenient means.
So there's a natural development from the unconscious toward independence.
Toward independence on the one side and toward relationship on the other side. Certain independence in the course of years, of course, is a condition of a good relationship. But not the identification. Identification is wonderful. If you have never experienced an identification, so you have missed a lot. But then one has to become oneself again.
How did you experience Jung's relationship to his shadow, his consciousness of his own dark side?
Yes, he was very conscious of it. When I was his secretary, he grumbled at me in a very loud voice, and he didn't like when I took it personally, so I took it, and sooner or later there was a big and very beautiful, how do you say, belohnung, recompense, do you say so? A compensation. He compensated. He knew exactly what he had done. And then one was rewarded. if one could stand it, and if one didn't took it personally. You see, he was so burdened by his ideas and by people outside and his inner figures. So I understood it quite well. He had to have a let out, das heißt Ventil.
Ventilate.
And out.
Vent.
The steam has to go out.
Yes. And it sometimes came out on you when you were there.
Yes, why not?
Yeah. Did that help you to learn how to defend yourself?
I didn't defend myself.
You didn't need to.
No. I knew him. And then I said, this old man, he must let his steam out. I don't know how to say. I must ein Ventil haben.
So you didn't.
And he was grateful, you see, if I didn't take it, if I didn't behave as a, ich weiß nicht, wie man sagt auf Englisch, eine beleidigte Schönheit, wie St. John. I was not offended.
How is it that you came to be his secretary?
His secretary married, and then he had two secretaries in between. I was the secretary of the Jung Institute, and then I switched from the Jung Institute to Krishna.
He stole you away from them.
He stole me away from them. Yes.
You have also worked a lot on the letters that are now have been published.
Gerhard Adler.
Yeah. Are they all published now, or is there more to come?
No, I don't know whether it will come, but it's not possible to publish them all. You see, there are letters with no interest at all, giving an appointment or so. Then there are letters with medical, which cannot be published for medical discretion. And then there are the letters of to the family, and I hope they will be published one day. To his wife, to his children, to his mother-in-law, to his mother. Are very beautiful letters.
I see.
Some of them, letters, 2 or 3 letters to his wife, are going to be published in this picture book, which I edited just now. It will also be published in English in Princeton. So you will find some, for instance, one letter, long letter he wrote from America when he was there with Freud.
Do Americans still come to Zurich quite a lot for analysis?
Yeah.
Do you feel that there is a more difficulty for American people from the States to relate to the shadow, or do you think it's just as difficult for everybody?
It's difficult for everybody, I should say.
I know Jung once commented that in relating to the deeper aspects of the unconscious, that Americans didn't have a stairway down, that they dropped into...
I know this. It's not my experience. There are people who are very well prepared to meet the unconscious coming from America.
What do you feel about the tendency to split that seems to be there in Jungian groups, in the training institutes? Do you think there is a tendency to polarize? For example, in London, or...
In what?
In London,
yeah, why not? Jung was, as it is a psychology which is very much based on the individual, and as the individual forms the psychology as an analyst. So it's quite natural. It's a very natural movement, I should say. And at the same time, there's also uniting movement, as I told you, with group psychology, with autonomy, and if I dare a prophecy, I should say, in 100 years they will go together with Freudians. Why not? They are also now, you see. And Jung himself said, you can hear me speaking Freudian or Adlerian, and me too. there are certain pupils of mine, and it's so obvious that this is, I have to speak Freudian, so I do. And I give them books to read. So this, the split on one side and the uniting on the other side, which is quite on the line of psychology. It's never either or, as Jung said, always either and or. Mm-hmm. It's always ambiguous antithesis.
Since his death, the problem of evil seems even more outspoken in the political world. How do you feel about the possibility of another world war? Or
of course, I'm not a prophet, and I'm not a politician. Mm-hmm. But I think that the situation is most dangerous. Mm-hmm. Most dangerous just now. There are too many places with an explosive situation.
You left Germany yourself in 1933, I believe.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Did you have inner experiences, or was it just simply seeing what was happening outside?
No, I was in Hamburg studying at that time, and they threw me out. Quite simple.
They threw you out?
Yeah, I'm Jewish.
Uh-huh.
Or they give me the advice to leave, if I put it more in a polite way.
Mm-hmm. Did you have a family, or were you alone at that time?
My family, my parents left 7 years later for England. My older sister too, and my younger sister's in America. So we are spread all over the world.
Mm-hmm. But everyone left Germany?
No, not everyone. Mm-hmm. There are uncles of mine who perished in the camp, one of the camps.
Mm-hmm. I've wondered, what do you think the effects of all the published work of Jung will be? That many books go out now from Jung and from his students. So more people read him all the time, and yet there are only a few analysts in the world. Do you think that people will benefit who never go into analysis?
They may do great confusions, or also some of them are very much influenced in a very good sense. For instance, artists also. That is something I couldn't judge. It's very, very difficult to say. But also natural scientists profited from his books without having ever been in analysis. The analysis is for people who have difficulties with life, especially. But that's not always the case. And so if they read the books carefully, they may profit from it. But it's a very interesting question, but I couldn't answer it fully. Let's see.
How did Jung feel toward the end of his life about the way his work was received in the world?
He was not very satisfied. He thought that there were too many misunderstandings. Sometimes he was depressed about it, but sometimes he even wrote in his memoirs, I got more recognition than I ever could have expected, because what I have had to say was just the compensation of the consciousness. So people didn't like it was difficult for people to accept what he said. It was not always easy, not intellectually difficult, but from the human standpoint difficult. For instance, the whole problem of the shadow and of evil, and of the responsibility, and of the autonomy of of the unconscious are very difficult questions. But they are more and more accepted now. And just from, I always say, the recognition of Jung will not come from Jungians, but from quite different sides. For instance, natural scientists, they understand him, physicists understand him much better. Oh, I exaggerate now, I shouldn't say so, but they understand him because they touch to something now which I should call the secret of life. And this, Jung also went to the border, to the limit where the secret begins. And the natural scientists, the physicists know now that they come to a limit where secret begins. Rationalism stops. Causalism stops.
What did Jung mean by the psychoid?
You see, you put difficult questions. Psychoid, that is a paradox which means not only psychological, but also in a certain way physical. It is a medium sphere where these both realms of spirit and matter meet. That is a psychoid. One doesn't know.
What could you say about your view or Jung's view of the relationship between the body or matter and spirit?
Yes, for instance, the whole, do you mean psychosomatics? And he, that is what Meyer first brought up, and Jung accepted it, that psychosomatic symptoms might be synchronistic. Not not causality, but synchronistic. If you understand, it happens at the same time. It is, how can matter influence the psyche? One doesn't know. Even Kant was concerned with this, or vice versa. How can spirit influence matter? Kant, for instance, the famous philosopher, he said, it's the greatest riddle how it comes that if a person wants to lift his arm, he lifts it. Can you explain this? Nobody can. Nobody can, really. But this is, so we doesn't know what happens when the psyche influences matter. But it happens all the time. So you come to, you come to a limitation of causality. And so the relationship between body, spirit and matter is a mysterium conjunctionis. And that is what he wrote about in the last chapter of his two big volumes, Mysterium Conjunctionis. And the alchemists were already concerned with this problem, because they found that there was a spirit in matter, which comes up now again. Who tells you that in a crystal there is not a spirit? Who makes it go? Is it a spirit? What is it? In any case, it is a mystery. So one cannot answer this question with one word.
Mm-hmm.
But one knows also, for instance, from quite a different standpoint, that your physiognomy, the face, tells something about your character.
Mm-hmm.
So it is also a synchronistic phenomenon. You have this mouth or this nose, and this tells something of your character. Synchronistic.
Mm-hmm. What about life after death? Do you have your own images?
No. I follow Jung. He said it's very important that people have fantasy about it. He told it to make a mythologein in Greek. but one never knows. Now there is a great literature, many books are written about life after death, and mediums are speaking of, and giving news about these people who are already dead. But this, to my feelings, they are very important myths.
Myths, yeah.
But very important. And I wouldn't dare to have a definite opinion how it will go on. I believe it that it will go on, but I have no idea how it will go on.
Do you have any, you don't have a particular image or a particular story or myth of it?
Yes, I have, but I don't want
But you don't want to tell.
know.
When you use the word myth,
That I should say myth is an archetypal tale.
there is the idea that in the work with the psyche, one discovers more and more one's own particular myth.
Perhaps, what do you understand by particular myth?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. What is it? Is it a matter of discovering parallels? For example, Dr. von Franz suggests that the story of Merlin has many interesting parallels with Jung's own life, which he only discovered very late.
Yeah. Yes. Perhaps, no, I should say I am already satisfied, as I told you, to have discovered where I belong to and what my task in this world is, my situation as a woman and as a servant. So, but these are also archetypal contents. Even being a woman is archetypal. Being a Jew is also archetypal. And if you want to know what I feel my myth, I'm a servant to Jung's work. But that is enough.
And as a woman, you are a servant to Jung's work.
Yes, I'm not a man.
Many people have commented that it is Jung's work was received first by women, more women, and has been elaborated more by women.
Yes, that is. This is an on dit, one says so. But if you count women here and men there, you come about to the same number. But it is true that Jung gave a high value to the feminine side of life and of the psyche, and the unconscious is a certain way a mother figure, and women, very famous people on the spiritual side. I don't speak about, or even about in the natural science. If they are creative, the creative man attracts women in all, artists and scientists and psychologists, religious persons. For instance, take Schweitzer, take Teilhard de Chardin, take all them. They attract women because the nature, the feminine nature is receiving, and they want to profit of this creativity. And it's quite natural. But if you take, in reality, the men who wrote about Jung and the women, you come to the same number, about to the same number. But women love the creativity of men. That's true. Don't you?
Yes. You wrote in Man and His Symbols an essay on modern art. And since that time, do you see any new developments in modern art, or have you paid much attention to what's happening?
No, I should say I'm still rather satisfied with what I wrote there.
Mm-hmm. There is the idea, I think, there in your essay that the old values are dying, and that this process of
my thesis was, as far as I remember, art is a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean symbolism in the art, but art as a symbol of our time. And I see perhaps now a greater interest in objects. Mm-hmm. For instance, it's quite new also that in our Kunsthaus we have a section where photographs are shown. May be a bit torn into the fantastic, these photographs, but anyhow, it is something new is coming up. But I shouldn't say, I'm not expert, I'm not an artist. I'm only interested, I love art.
How do you feel about the different generations of people that are interested in Jung? Do you yourself have students, for example, now that you work with, that you are connected to deeply? Students of a younger generation,
yeah,
who you think will carry on your own work, or
they try to carry on the Jungian ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Of my own ideas, I should say. I'm not as creative as that, but I try to make them understand the Jungian standpoint, and I accept it. Or if, for instance, just now I had to read a thesis for the diploma about interpretation of a fairy tale. So they used what von Franz wrote about it, or from Byte. But fairy tales is such a rich field, and also mythology. And the younger generation, they have other experiences.
Do you think that Jung's work will influence the relationship between science and the rest of the culture? Do you see that there is any implication in his work for seeing the limitations of science?
Yes, I think the scientists came to the same conclusion as he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a great influence of his work on religion.
Uh-huh. Can you say more about that?
Yes, there's something which happened now. You know, he had a great problem of evil, was a great concern for him. Evil in the world, evil in the God image, not in God, but in the God image. And he had a long correspondence with Father Victor White, which is not yet published. You asked me about his correspondence, and also even the correspondence with Neumann, I have to add. So, and the correspondence with this Dominican monk, Father Victor White, it concerned with privatio boni. I don't know why you know. That means the evil is the absence of the good, And Jung didn't agree, and there were letters and letters, and it was a very hard quarrel between the two. now what happened in this last time, I read twice from the Pope now, Paul VI, that he wrote and spoke that evil is not a privatio boni, but a reality in itself. So exactly what you said. So I don't know whether whether this is synchronicity, what I suppose, or whether he read Jung and was influenced. So you see, Jung was ahead of his time. And perhaps Paul VI, he formulated it perhaps in a bit more primitive, concretistisch, wie soll man sagen, concrete way. But the idea was the same. It's not a privatio boni. And Jung was very unhappy about it, that his father White, whom he loved very much, couldn't accept it. Now he would accept it. And the difference between God and God image is also very important. Mm-hmm. One cannot make any metaphysical statements. If one makes a statement, it's always a statement of the soul, of the psyche. It's an image. And the image of the very good God it has no value anymore. If you have only the good God, then you have the devil on the other side. And Jung, in all his theories, he emphasized the paradoxy. It's never, as I told you, never either or. It's always both. And good and evil are concepts of man, but not concepts of the beyond. We don't know.
But it seems as if the God image, the image of God that is coming up in the psyche now, is what
more ambivalent.
More ambivalent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, what also young people are looking for, what Jung always meant, the religion is not only preaching and learning, but the religious experience. Mm-hmm. The experience of the numinous. That was so important for him. And as far as I'm informed about young people and what they are striving for, it is a religious experience.
Mm-hmm. Did Jung talk to you ever about prayer, or did he?
Yes, his father was a prayer. Therefore, he didn't like prayer.
Uh-huh.
But it's not a question of praying, it's a question of experience.